Welcome to the women's preview for the British Open. So I'm joined by a few guests today. Did you all just want to take it in turns to introduce yourself?
Or not. It's Lewis. I'll go first. Hi, I'm Owen from EST Barbell. I'm coach in and around there. I was on the podcast a few episodes ago.
Anyone else want to introduce yourself?
I'm one of the coaches with the Open team through British Powerlifting.
And I'm Lewis from Force and Performance, also a coach with like the junior team and the university team, which Dan is also head coach of. Which
I have got that. Sorry.
They were appalling introductions, but that's fine. I'm pretty sure most people will know who you are. If they know who I am, they should know who you guys are. We'll jump straight in. We're going to go through all the weight classes. We'll go in order, and we'll just give our predictions, how we think it's going to go. Before we do, anyone want to kind of shout out anything about how they think the British is planned this year? Obviously, ridiculously large numbers, split into two platforms. Do we think that's the right move?
I think with the numbers that they had and the size of the venue and the potential like production value somewhere like the hangar can bring, it probably was the only option for like lifter experience and stuff like that. Like I think the step into a venue like the hangar that size is naturally the next step. It is a shame it's had to become two platforms because obviously like resources then get split, don't they, for the size of the event. But I'm actually really looking forward to it. I think it will come together really well, especially with like the prime time sessions as well. Hopefully that becomes a bit like quite a spectacle and like something that people hang around to watch.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. I think it's good. It's definitely like a level up, it being in the hangar. I think it being split was kind of the only option, but like you've got to shout out Adam Riley, who's managed to make sure that there's a jury across both platforms on every single session. So like volunteers wise, actually, we've got enough to man the two. And I had a little look at like the floor plan for the venue, and it looks like there's going to be kind of two platforms side to side, tiered seating out in front. So hopefully should bring like a good atmosphere and should be a pretty good event.
I think also just shout out to the White Lights boys for doing it. Like they've taken on a big thing this year, especially with the number of people that have entered.
Yeah, definitely. I think I like the way they've done it. I like that the platforms are side by side and it's like you say, tiered seating as well. I looked at the floor plan the other day. I think it makes it easier viewing as well because I don't want to have to pick between which session I watch. Like I want to be able to watch it all when I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll jump in to the women's under 47s. The smallest class, only 5 lifters. But to be fair, I feel like it's still going to be a decent battle. Don't know if one of you wants to take the lead on this one or not.
Well, okay. I mean, to be fair, like you say, it's going to be an interesting one regardless. Obviously, you've got Jessie, who on nomination looks pretty clear. But then sort of below that, you've got Gigi, you've got Nicola. Like I know Nicola from, it's obviously big pull on her, and that's quite tight as well. Like, and it also depends how much progress people have made, like since their last comp. Like, obviously you've got Leia in there as well, who on nominations a decent way off, but obviously young lifter, was at the University of Worlds, like has had time to potentially add to that. Like I actually handled Leia at Uni Worlds, and like she was still so early in that career. There's could have been a considerable amount of progress at Uni Worlds. I've not seen too much training wise, but could be a little bit of like, well, it could be a bit of a dark horse to catch up there. And if there's a couple of mistakes above her, sneak up.
Yeah, it's Jessie's to lose, really, isn't it? I think from the training she's posted, she looks really good. I think she's pulled 160, squatted somewhere in the 130s as well. And I think as long as she's not, having to cut loads and just kind of keeps the standards up on the platform, I feel like she's going to have to make a pretty big error to be caught by someone. Nicola obviously competed at Commonwealth, so she's fairly recently coming off the back of that. So I think that second and third place between her and Gigi is going to be pretty close. But then, you can't rule out someone like Leia, who's a junior, coming out and having made a load of progress and giving some of the podium people a fright, So I think, it's kind of Jessie's to lose though, really. Podium spots will be interesting though, amongst the 5 of them.
I think an honourable mention to Katie as well. She's the Masters lifter. So she is, even though the oldest there, like you said, if someone makes a mistake, there's all that potential for her to kind of get on there as well.
Yeah, I just noticed that because typically 47s tend to be the younger lifters because a lot of them obviously outgrow the 47 class. But it's really interesting to have someone in the Masters versus, again, I think the rest of them maybe just aged out of juniors, or two of them just aged out of juniors. My thing I was thinking when I was looking at nominations, so Jessie, like you said, it's hers to lose. She's got quite a big lead. But Nicola and Gigi, they're nominated 5 kilos apart. Gigi's total is from All England, which I competed on the same session as Gigi. The conditions were not great. Whatever total anyone put up at All England's, I will happily add 10 to on a good day, because the platform was slippy. There was no atmosphere for our session. The crowd was empty. Like, it was terrible. So I feel like I've personally put Gigi in second because she's also had longer. That was a good 6 months ago, nearly now. So she's put up a good bit of training since then, from what I've seen. And then I put Nicola in third just because Commonwealth was so recent.
Concur.
Yeah, I'd agree. There's obviously the travel factor there as well for Nicola as well, though. Like, so if we don't know how she's reacted with that, like, it's closer. Did the travel hit her? International versus national, like, in theory, shouldn't make a difference, but if that does as well, like, that's going to be, it's going to be tight.
No, definitely.
Am I right in saying, I might be completely off here, that Nicola's, her last deadlift at Commonwealth was pretty comfy, like, for positioning? Because obviously that's like a big weapon. I might be completely wrong there.
It was only 2.5 more than a second, so you'd imagine so.
Yeah.
She also missed a squat as well, which would have increased her total by another 5 had she got it. So there was room there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think that travel and being able to kind of get after it more on a third deadlift versus obviously what you've just mentioned about All England's, they should be on a fairly like similar playing field. It's going to be an interesting one.
Definitely. I think jump to the 52s, because none of you were keen to take the lead on the last one. I'll take the lead on the 52s. So we've got a really close battle for first and second between Leonie and Ruth. And then I feel like we've also got a really close battle for third between at least 3 of the girls. Obviously, you never know what anyone else has been doing. We've got Cherry, Peter, and Emily that are fairly close for third as well. The notes I made on this one with third, like, all those lifters are within 7.5 of each other on nominations. I put Emily in third for just because she's still pretty new and she's been progressing consistently from comp to comp, like little improvements every time. But I also couldn't find tons of information on the other lifters, so that is kind of just a guess. Second place, I put Leonie. She got injured in prep for Commonwealth. Dan, you'll be the one to ask for this. She put in her comp recap that she bruised her intercostals, or they were really strained. The people she spoke to after were surprised she could even compete. Is that something that will have recovered and should have been able to prep through in the 6-week turnaround from Commonwealth to this?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Probably. They hurt. They do. That's like take a deep breath in, cough. Like, they really fucking hurt. And I imagine like benching and arching and stuff would have been not fun, and like any kind of bracing would have not been very enjoyable for her. And then especially coming off the back of like that really long flight. I imagine it might not be 100%, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't a decent chunk better going into this than it would have been at Commonwealths.
Yeah, so that was the only thing that I thought maybe I'll put her in second just in case she's not fully healthy, or if she couldn't train to full levels and stuff just because she was still in pain when she first got back. And also, it's a quick turnaround of 6 weeks. It's not ideal for anyone. And then I put Ruth in first. She's been around the 400 mark for a while. I haven't followed her training. I don't know if she's healthy, how it's been going, but she's consistently around the 400 mark. And I think it will be probably close between them both if they're both healthy.
Yeah, I think one might be Cherry Young as well, though, because it is only a second comp at 52. She did the is it the South Mids divisional one? I've just pulled up Open IPF. I wasn't sure. Yeah, it was like 50.3. So his first stat, obviously that 365 is as a 52, but it's a light 52 with room to grow from like earlier this year. So potentially, I mean, from what I've seen, training looks like it's gone pretty well with her and Norm. So could show up and put something considerable on that because she's probably not going to have to cut, or at least if she has, she's probably only just filled out the class. So yeah, that might be again like a little wild cardy sort of sneak up there, and maybe might be a little bit clearer than it looks.
I kind of back Cherry for. I'd definitely say third, but even second, because like even in her training the other day, I'm pretty sure she benched 85. And I've been doing a little bit of like stuff with Norm at the moment, and one of his lifters that we went over was Cherry. And her training, some of the videos he sent me, she's been hitting numbers that are pretty close to these, but like pretty comfortable with what we consider RPE. So I'd probably back Cherry, to be honest, to even push for second if Leonie's not recovered, and obviously it depends how Ruth does.
Leonie and Ruth are really similar in terms of their lifting as well, like both quite big benchers, both maybe not as big of a deadlifter. And like, so between them, they've kind of, especially subtotal wise, like both have to go 6 for 6. Otherwise they're going to give ground to each other's better lifts. The thing that Cherry's got on her is she will probably be able to pull after them. And if they've tripped up at some point during squat or bench, and Cherry's having the day that we think she's capable of, she may well be able to sneak on for second or even higher, depending on what they do. Worth mentioning as well, Emily, she was one of the lifters that came out with us to 2023 Uni Worlds and ended up winning the 52s. She is very, very strong. She just needs to make lifts. I think since that comp, she's kind of taken time away from powerlifting. She's like traveled a bit. She's dipped in and out, and she's done a few comps where I want to say that she's kind of gone a 5 for 9 and had some struggles just getting lifts in. If she can come together and put down like an 8 for 9, 9 for 9 sort of day, I also think she's probably right up in there around with Cherry in that kind of knocking on the door position. But she just has to put it together on the day. Basically, she's strong enough, but she needs to do the powerlifting thing and make the lifts.
I think it's really good to see battles in the lighter 2 weight classes as well. Like, I feel like historically they're not the most interesting to watch because there's just not that many close battles. But even the 47s, 52s, there's both. It's going to be fights for podium spots. It's going to be fights for first, second.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. It's a lot tighter, isn't it? Like, even though smaller weight classes you normally have, like we see it here a little bit, but sometimes it can be even worse where you have like 1 or 2 that are clear, and then it's a fairly big drop off. But it's quite tight generally, so it'll be interesting. Like, it's all the way through the component. Like, all of the classes are like this.
Yeah, definitely. I think move to 57s. Got some bigger names in the 57s. I feel like this is going to be a really interesting class to watch and a popular class to watch as well. Would one of you like to take the lead on this one, or do you want me to?
I'll take the lead on this. Yeah, I just think Joy's going to win. Like, the thing is, this is the same thing for every British, isn't it? It's Joy and Poppy. I think Joy coming back down to 57 is really, really exciting. She's almost given herself like a harder time of it as well, I think, by going down and giving herself like a real head-to-head. With Bobby, who's like made decent progress over this like last year, and Adejoke as well continues to kind of build and improve from comp to comp. It's going to be very interesting. I just think you can't ignore the history on this, that Joy has not been beaten in this class. Like, I think that is going to carry a fair bit of weight. That this is completely like normal territory for her, and we all know what's going to happen. Bobby's going to squat and bench 1 million kilos. Joy's then going to deadlift 1 million kilos, and it just, sometimes she makes it, sometimes she doesn't. I think if Adejoke puts together a good day as well, and other people trip up, she could maybe sneak higher up. But I just don't think, based on the history, you can bet against Joy on this.
Yeah, I agree. Like, that is the main event of the class, isn't it? It's those two. It'll be very interesting again at Adejoke how much stride she's made forward since Worlds. But again, I'm not quite sure she'll be able to close that gap unless there's like some mistakes above that. Really,
Her training is looking pretty good at the moment, like really good. I'm pretty sure she's like repping out quite near to her max. Special.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I was going to say I put Adejoke in third, but it was under the impression that Bobby and Joy don't miss. Like, she could potentially catch, like, if they have an off day. And again, I put Joy in first just because she has the bigger pull. As long as she gets what she needs to on the subtotal to stay close enough, I think she'll load what she needs. And then, like you said, it'll be kind of, will she hit it, will she miss it? But I think, yeah, it'll be really close between the 3 of them potentially.
we're quite lucky to have that much talent in that class. Like, when you think that, one of them might miss out on an international spot with a 474, something like that total, I guess it's a similar sort of story with the 120s, like where we've just got a real concentration of really good talent there, and we can't take everyone. But it's going to be interesting. I'm glad that Joy's gone back down. I think it's going to be a spectacle because of that.
Just to add to that, Dan, as well, it's like I went through the numbers and it's like the third biggest class we've got in the women's, which surprised me in terms of entries this year. But equally, like, even if one of them hits 470 and comes third, that's also above second what's nominated in the 63s. So the standard in that one is pretty wild.
I think it's also worth noting, like 470 last year was third place in the 84s, and this is the 57s.
Right.
That's crazy when you think about it like that.
That is a bit mad.
That is nuts.
But even the lifters below them, like, they still need a mention. They're still doing like even Katie Rimmel. I know Hannah's not doing it now because she pulled out, but even Katie doing over 4 at 57 is still pretty impressive.
Yeah, and Katie's young as well, isn't she? She's still a junior, or she just aged out.
I think she's just aged out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of girls getting closer to that 400 as well. Like, it's very stacked class. And I feel like it's grown a lot in the last year. Like you said, the number of entries in the 57s as well. It's a lot more than I think most people would have expected. All right, 63s. Lewis, would you like to take the lead?
I can, because Owen's got a lifter in one of these.
Yeah, I have a full disclosure. I coach Grace Allinson, who's nominated in 4th in the 63s. So I'm biased where Grace is going to sneak up and take podium. She's going to sit in 3rd. But it's going to be tight between that top, well, all of them really.
Am I leading or are you leading?
You lead. Go on. Sorry, I was doing a typical Owen biased ramble there. Go on.
I know I had to butt in, mate. I think in terms of this one, it's close. Like Sabs, I think will win. I know she did Girl Power. What was it? A couple of weeks ago, and did like 490. So already like 7.5 above on that total. So I think she'll kind of come away with it, even though she was like a kilo over the weight class because she didn't have the cut for it because it's more of like a GL comp. But then equally, it could be close on the day depending on how much fatigue and like having another comp close to this one affects her in terms of how her training's gone in the meantime, because Makeda's also really, really strong. She doesn't post too much on Instagram, but from what she posts on stories, again, she's one that's been repping out like quite near her max for reps. So it'd be interesting to see how like them two kind of go head to head. I'd probably predict both of them to be 1 and 2. And then you go down, you've got like Suzanne Daniel, who's been around for a while now. Again, I don't see much of her posting in her numbers at the moment, so it's kind of hard to say where she's going to go with it. And I guess the same for Grace as well with you, Owen. Obviously, you know more about that than I do. Yeah. But I think 1 and 2 will probably be Sabs and Makeda, and then 3 and 4, you're probably looking at a battle between Suzanne and Grace. But then equally below that, you've got Elspeth, who's again been around for a long time now, who's been making some pretty decent progress with her lifting. I don't know when that total was from, the 425. If I can have a look at it quickly.
Yeah, I think with Elspeth, she obviously managed a lot. I think she had like some back issues and stuff, didn't she? And I think she's coming off the back of that, and there's like quite a bit of momentum coming in. So I think that's going to be really tight. Obviously, Grace was Manny Open, has like done a bit of travel in between now and then as well. Like we'll see. Like she looks strong. It's going to be that classic between those three, I think, of who makes the least mistakes. Like Grace will be looking to knock off the first 200 plus kilo pull that she'll do, like which she looks on pace to do, and it's just whether something like that would be enough to position. Like
because
it'll just come down to the point, yeah.
Elspeth's big thing was like elbow depth with the big change, but like going back over her recent comp, she's only missed 1 bench in the last 2 comps she's done now. So again, like more kilos there for her, depending on how well her back does, because she missed 2 deadlifts in her last comp. That's when that total was from. So if you really look at like another 10, 15 plus on that, and then obviously Grace progressing as well. But yeah, I think 3rd will be a battle between Suzanne, Grace, and Elspeth, and just kind of see who's strongest on the day.
Yeah, I think Sabrina is like out of her and Makeda. I think Sabrina, the thing that she has is she's just reliable, isn't she? Like the squats are always the depth, the bench isn't anything like crazy technical, and the deadlift always seems to more or less be there. Like you've got that real reliability factor there. And I just don't think she's going to make the mistakes that will open the door for Makeda. And so, yeah, I think Sabrina first, Makeda second. And then, yeah, like you boys have just said, really, that 3rd is up for grabs out of all 3 of them. depending on how it goes. I think Suzanne's a tough one because you kind of see her train, but you never really know what is actually on the bar. It's just like commercial gym plates that could weigh anything, and she's just squatting, and you're like, okay, well that looks all right, I guess, maybe, if it depends what it is. And then, like you say, if Grace can sort of put a big pull on the board and leapfrog that, if Elspeth gets all of her benches and all of her deadlifts in, again, it's a kind of similar story to a lot to like the 52s, isn't it? Where that top two is kind of locked up, but then that third place is kind of up for grabs depending on how well people do. So it'd be interesting, kind of two separate battles there almost.
Yeah, I pretty much mirror that completely. I did notice I put Sabrina in first when I was having a look through. The 490 recently. I don't feel like that was, I can't remember, I did watch it, but I don't feel like that was the most difficult performance either. Like, I think it wasn't anything crazy. Potentially had a bit more room. So I think hopefully, as long as obviously she managed fatigue well after, and then her training's been good since, I feel like she's probably safe in first. Makeda I did put second, but then actually I looked through her Instagram yesterday and she has been repping, like Lewis said, like very close to her maxes, or very close to her comp maxes. So I think she's potentially on for quite a big total PB, so it could be closer than it looks. And then third, I put Suzanne in third just because I feel like her training does always look good and she's consistent, but like you said, you never know what's on the bar. You literally have no idea what she's lifting ever. But I feel like this is the most consistent she's strung training together for quite a while. Like, she's been around a long time, and I feel like she's gone through periods where training has just not been the priority, and it looks like it's more of a priority again. So I'm kind of expecting quite a big total PB from Suzanne.
She'll probably pull last out of her and Grace, though. Right?
Yeah.
And Elspeth.
Yeah, I think it will just come down to potentially like Suzanne having the final say, unless there's like a hiccup in an earlier pull or something like that. Like, simply put, this is where it is. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think move on to the 69s. One thing to note is Tasmin does have dispensation, so she's not actually competing. Owen, did you want to take the lead on this one?
Yeah, sure. I'm just scrolling to pull it up. Yeah,
it's a real difficult one, this, Owen. You might.
Yeah. Annie's clear. I think that obviously, like, Tasmin again has dispensation. From what I've seen of Annie's training, looks really, really good at the minute. Like, will come in, look strong, but also has home nations in a couple of weeks. So I don't know what their approach is because of how comfortable that lead is. And then looking down from that, it tightens up a little bit. This Jessica Randall, if it's the person I'm thinking of, I'm pretty sure it is, just did one of the comps out of 4, is still pretty new, actually. I'm pretty sure it's maybe just done 1 comp. And that was it.
She's done 2 comps, I think. Oh no, this will be her second comp.
Yeah, this will be her second, and is very, very strong. And a bit raw as well. Like, I think it's a few of the boys out of Buzz Gym on Cannon Street that have sort of helped sort of coach her and stuff. So it'll be really interesting to see the kind of progress that she's made, because again, being so new and already being as close to that 500 total mark as she is, back in spring, we've had 6-7 months potentially since then. How much progress has been made in that 6 months? As you got Cleo from Euromuscle, again, very, very strong, still a junior, lifts a little bit unconventionally, like very low bar, quite close stance, quite archy bench. I think, again, as if she hits lifts and those sort of technicalities don't get in the way of stuff, because I know there were some issues at Euromuscle with that. So depending if she's made some changes there to be a bit like safer technique wise, could show up really well, or could actually open the door if there's a couple of mistakes like that, because the next nomination is only 12 behind, and if they've made progress again, like it's that first locked up. I think second Jessica should be pretty clear, but that third spot again is pretty open if Cleo makes similar to mistakes or like errors to Euromuscle.
Yeah, when I spoke to Annie recently, she did say she's still going to go all out for British. I think Home Nations is more of just a fun one. So I think she'd probably rather put on a bit of a show for British, but I guess we'll see, because she is completely clear. Jessica, I hadn't heard of her until I was looking through people yesterday, and I looked on her Instagram, and I do have to say, I am intrigued to see if she gets any calls for not standing upright on squats. because I did notice, I think she did like a 170 double and it moved really well, but the unrack looked quite shaky. And when she stood up with the weight, she wasn't fully stood. And that's something that I think could, because she's still so new, could possibly catch her out. But then you said, is it Cleo?
Yes.
Leo, yeah. She, if she has issues with squatting to standard and stuff as well, that could be the thing that shuffles up second and third place.
You've stitched her right up there because I'm on the jury and I had no idea it was a thing. So, well,
I didn't say that.
You and her can scrap afterwards. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, and Annie is miles ahead. I think she just needs to do her own thing. Really, I think it'd be really easy to get caught up in this whole mindset of like, this is almost a freebie for me. I need to show people internationally what I'm doing and how strong I am. Whereas actually, I think if she just goes there, does her own thing, hits her lifts, doesn't like do any number chasing or anything like that. Not that she would, because her and Peach are far too sensible to do that kind of thing. Like, she'll put up a decent total and be fine, and then she can just go and enjoy Home Nations, you know, a couple of weeks after. I'll take your word for it on Jessica. I have never seen a lift or anything like that. And then Clear's the same. It's interesting that she had problems at Euromuscle because she also did unis in 23 and she was fine. They didn't have any problem with any of what she was doing, and she lifted really well. So it's going to be one of those on the day things, really, of if she's if the refs are on it or not with her. But yeah, I think it will probably go 1, 2, 3 as it's nominated, really.
I did also, sorry, I just realised who Helen is as well, nominated in 5th. I follow her on Instagram, but her Instagram handle is not Helen. She's recently changed to being coached by Alba Bostrom, and her training has looked very, very good. Like, she's looked really strong recently, and I think she struggled with injuries for a while. She seems healthy, so I wouldn't be surprised if she's also in that battle for 3rd.
I was just about to say Helen as well, have been a dark horse, because I'm pretty sure she did like 457 the other week.
Yeah.
So 2 more weeks of training, she probably had more kilos to that. I think it'll be one of those for 3rd will be like who hits standard the best. If Leo's had issues with it before Euromuscles, and then Helen, I think pretty much hits standard on everything fine. And I'm pretty sure she come 2nd or 3rd British a couple of years ago as well in the 69s. So she's been there before with like podium battles, so she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, I think experience will probably show for that one, and it will be who gets their lifts in, who lifts to standard. And then I think I'll put Helen for 3rd. I think 3rd. No, we're talking 2nd now. But I think I'll put Helen 3rd, Jessica for 2nd, Annie for 1st.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm not familiar with Helen, so I trust you guys enough on that one.
All right, move on to the 76s, which I think is going to be really interesting. Would anyone else like to take the lead on this one?
I can go if you want.
When I get to it on the thing, I'll tell you.
I was scrolling down and finding it at the same time.
I'm going to set Dan up for the 84s because you two might be a bit more biased than Dan.
I'm not really biased. 84s, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Right, I'll kickstart this then. I think it will be interesting for 1st place because Sophia's had some ongoing issues with her knees for a long time now. I spoke to her about it in South Africa at Commonwealth because it's been bugging her for like a while, and I think she was a bit 50-50 about entering in the 1st place. So I think for her it will kind of depend on the day how much that tanks her squat, if it does at all, or if she's able to kind of like fight through the pain, which I know she's been doing for the last few comps and actually put up a really decent total. She's still like 38 kilos ahead on nominations, but then equally if you look at someone like Betty who's making progress every single comp and is just getting stronger and stronger every time she competes, then there is potential that if Sophia doesn't have the day she wants, maybe knees play up too much, whatever, and Betty comes in as you kind of expect her to, then she might just nip first. But then equally, you've got like Temi, who's cut down from the 84s. Dan, you probably know a little bit more about her training than I do.
Not at the minute, to be fair. I handled her for her qualifier at Super Training, and it was just a complete guessing game, really, because it was the first time that she'd kind of come down to 76. I think she wouldn't mind me saying that I feel like neither of us had a great idea as to how her numbers were looking or how she was going to go on the day. And I think it was probably a bit of a learning experience for her and for Christian and like things like that. I think she did well. It's like 5'10". I would expect her to be better than that just from hanging around closer to weight, training at 76 and just learning those leverages a little bit more, and also just refining her cut as well. I think that will do a lot for her because we all know how strong she is. We all know how strong she was at 84. You know, she's more than capable of being up there in the kind of 530, 540 ranges completely. It's just all these little additional things that she hasn't had to think about or deal with before. And I think that first time was just a bit of a learned experience, really. But I'd be expecting her to come in like, yeah, around that kind of 530-ish mark, I'd imagine, if all goes well.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting between her and Betty, because I know from what I've seen and heard of Betty's training that she looks very strong. Has made some efforts like to adapt and get a bit more practice on an Alico rack and those pads because of just how technical that bench is, how archy it is, and how flared out she is. I know she trains on I think it's like an ER out of Power and Fitness in Liverpool. That like switch over has always been a variable for her. Obviously, Manny was a really good comp for her, so I suspect she's just going to tick over and it'll be quite tight between the two of them. Like I say, I think Sophia should be pretty clear as long as she doesn't make mistakes. If she makes too many of them, then it maybe gives like Betty and Temmie that, do we gun for that and see what happens. But obviously, again, Sophia being the puller she is, probably will have the last say on whether where she places. But it'll be a good class to watch, that will.
I think mentioned to Ayana as well, who seems to be getting better and better every comp she does. Like I can't remember what she did at the English, but lifting at Westerns was strong, like really strong. And like even in training now, like she is hitting. I'm pretty sure she's Sean, you might know this. Did she squat 200 in training recently or something?
I don't think I follow her. I don't think. Ayana.
Either way, like she's ridiculously strong, and I think she's also coached by Paul as well. So Paul's obviously got Sophia and Ayana, so I think both of those are probably going to be up there for podium. It depends on again like how Temmie or Betty do, or whether Ayana can push for that. But top four wise, like all of them are ridiculously strong, and they're getting better each time.
Yeah, I think I'm intrigued to see how Sophia does because I also spoke to her and she was really not sure about entering because her knees were still playing up. And then also her and Paul did stay in South Africa for a good few weeks. Like she's only been home like a week, 2 weeks at most. She was still training when they were traveling, but I felt that could have gone one of two ways. It could have helped her training and distracted her from overthinking it, or it could have just made it less consistent and potentially just she might not have felt as strong because they were traveling around so much. So it'd be interesting to see what Sophia puts up. And I think if she's not at the 540 range, 540 plus, then I think the door does open because I do think Temmie's had so much time now to settle at 76. And like you said, Christian's doing her training now, I think, as well as just her nutrition, isn't he? I think. And it'll be interesting to see the payoff from that. And then Betty, she had a really good performance at Manchester Open, which, to be fair, it wasn't that long ago, that performance. So it just depends if she's kept that momentum since then. But I also think Ayana and Naomi, Ayana is already in the 500s, but I wouldn't be surprised if Naomi James also ends up 500 range as well. Especially because when she did that 480 at All England, I remember her final deadlift moved the same speed as her first and second. Like she had room. So I think it'll be really close and it's a really hard class to call. But I've put Sophia first, Temmie second, Betty third, purely just because I think Temmie, she's done 550-ish before, hasn't she, as an 84? And she was always a light 84 as well. So she hasn't had to lose tons of weight to make the 76ers. It's just adapting to that change.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think as long as Sophia squats like 167, 170-ish, she'll be fine. If it's more like 160-ish, then I think it's gonna maybe be a bit more of a problem. And it just like what Owen said, it just creeps that door open for second and third to think, oh, can we go for this now? I think if she gets a 170 squat in and her bench and a deadlift turn up like they seem to do every other comp, she'll be far enough ahead. I think Temmie in second, just from that learning curve of dropping down and it being a second comp at this weight now, I think will carry her through. And then either Bettina or Ayano in third, depending on just who goes 9 for 9, who has the better day, really.
Right. This is the most important class because if anyone doesn't answer this one correctly, you're going to be kicked off the call and never invited back.
Fine.
Dan, did you want to
I'll
take the
just
lead on the
leave now.
equals?
Just to go now.
Okay, this is what I'm done by.
I'm going to go really controversial straight out off the rip. Ziana's going to win.
That is the wrong answer.
Is it? Have you found 100 kilos from somewhere?
Well, actually, I've been speaking to my handler, and the goal is to add 100 kilos. So,
Okay.
Also worth mentioning, Air Love has got dispensation. She's not competing.
Yeah. So 1 and 2 is fairly locked up, I imagine. I think it's been. No, I think Melina's not competed for a little while. I might be wrong, but I feel like she hasn't competed for a little while. But it's been good to see her come back. Obviously, massive bencher, massive deadlifter. I think that would be all good. That third place is sticky, isn't it?
No.
Yeah.
It really is. So, am I right in saying, right, correct me if I'm wrong, Owen, Tash did Manny Open as an 84 plus?
Yes.
And what did she total there?
497.
I thought it was 492 or 5, I think. I thought it was 495, but she said 492.
So I've put you right on the spot there.
492.
Yeah, 492 and a half is a light 4 plus.
Okay. And then you've done that at Commonwealths just a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't like it. How was it?
From my perspective, Tash has got a nutritionist to make 84. The only reason we tried to do 84 plus was just to see how she enjoyed it and that like comfort and whether we just enjoyed being a bit heavier. And then it was just kind of a decision coming into the British whether to do 84 plus, like where are we going to be more competitive? Because ultimately that's going to make enjoyment of the British more. And that was down at 84. And kind of one of my conditions coaching wise was like, well, if you do this, like we're going to do this smart and not just not eat for a week to get there. So yeah, I can't see us having much of a performance like deficit for coming back down. I think it's actually.
I will also add, Tash is considerably lighter than me at the moment.
Oh, okay. So Tash to pull for the podium.
How has your training gone, Sean? Without giving it all away, what's been going on?
I'm happy to give my training away. To be fair, no, this is the strongest I've felt. Commonwealth was a good performance, but I didn't feel strong. And since getting back, I've definitely felt a lot stronger. Like I hit my last heavy lifts last week and they moved a lot better than I thought they would. I am backing myself for third, but I would be stupid if I didn't say that. So, but to be fair, I have already said, like, if Tash, I think we'll be really close. I think we're probably even closer than it reads. Like, I do think we are very neck and neck. I just need to not miss, and I need to somehow remember how to deadlift, and then it will be very. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to body weight, because I mean Tash is going to have the last pull, isn't she? And she'll probably be lighter. So, Lewis,
I agree. What about well, I'm just kind of looking down the list as well. Like, is Lauren anywhere near like catching you guys, or like Leanne as well?
So
Leanne's not doing it. Leanne's pulled out.
Oh.
Just a bit of like a training incident. She's got some injury bits and was like, it's not worth it. So he's going to take the time. So Leanne's not doing the British. What did Lauren do at Tommy's?
I think she did about 462-ish, 460. She wasn't far off her best total. I'm not sure with Lauren because she's not really been posting a lot. I know earlier in the year, like leading into Scottish, she had a lot of momentum and her squat especially was really blowing up, and that's where a lot of her total increase came from. Going into Commonwealth, I think she struggled with her squat a lot more. And I don't know what happened, but I don't think she was necessarily having the best string of training into Commonwealth. But I think because she hasn't been posting, it's probably because she's just been so focused on herself. It'll probably actually mean that she's probably going to come in, and I wouldn't be surprised if she's very close. Like if I do my historical thing of going 6 for 9, she probably will place ahead of me.
Yeah, with your handler probably.
Yeah, that guy, bro. playing devil's advocate, like she did 462 by the looks of it, and then she squatted more than what she did at commies in training before. She missed a third bench and a third deadlift. So say you had like another 12 and a half got total then. She's still like, I don't know what, 10-ish behind. So you never know. As long as you go 9 for 9, Sean, you'll be fine.
Well, that's up to my handler, and I'll be pretty mad at him if I don't go 9 for 9.
For clarity, Lewis is handling Sean.
Yeah,
It wasn't outright said. We've just all been making digs at your handler, Sean.
But no, so I'm putting myself in third because I actually do feel a lot stronger than I thought I would go into this one. But if Tash comes third, I'll also be just as happy. Like, we've already planned to coordinate what comps we do next year so we can both qualify.
Is this just match fixing or like attempted match fixing for powerlifting?
Right, 84 plus. Any of you like to lead this one? If not, I can.
Let me scroll.
Go on, you go.
All right. So we've got a Quinn ranked in first, Toyosi second, Dominique third, Holly fourth, and then Victoria fifth, all in the 500s. I've put a Quinn for first. She recently, so when she hit 589, she did miss her final pull because she kind of loaded a Hail Mary in hopes for that 600 total. And to be fair, if I remember rightly, it did move. It's just obviously a bit too much for the day. She since then has changed coach. So she's now being coached by Peach. And I don't watch all of her training, but I've watched quite a lot of it. And since moving to Peach, she's been PBing a lot, like even just volume work. Like she's been hitting PBs on a lot of different things. They've really cleaned up her bench as well. So if she's not in the 600s, I'll be really surprised. Like she's definitely made a lot of progress since Manchester Open. I've put Toyosi in second. I think her training looks like it's going really, really well. Is she coached by Christian?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got a massive pull as well. Like seeing what her and a Quinn pull is going to be really interesting. And then I've put Dominique in third. It is only her third full power comp, and she's already in the 560s. So I think that's pretty insane.
What is the ordering of this sheet, by the way?
I was looking at this.
Part of my brain. I'm like, why do we go from 580 to 460 to 560 to 520?
Are you on the schedule? I'm on the actual entries list because I had this problem yesterday. I couldn't.
Yeah, I'll do the same.
I mean, a Quinn, it's hers to lose, and she's got the biggest pull, probably. I don't know how close Toyosi can push her on that, but chances are, even if she is kind of got her back up against the wall, she's going to load 250 plus if she needs to kind of secure first. I think Toyosi's pretty good there in second, and Dominique's just a bit too far ahead of Victoria in fourth, really. That Toyosi Dominique battle might be interesting. Obviously only kind of 4 kilos to separate them at the minute. But then it's that thing again, if a Quinn were to miss a squat or something like that, does Toyosi kind of go, oh, I'm going to try and push this now? And it's interesting whether they look to try and kind of exploit that or if they're a bit more defensive. Obviously, I'm assuming Christian will be handling her and he's pretty sensible with these things. So it should be interesting. But everyone's kind of close enough to leapfrog each other if people make mistakes. So that's going to be an interesting one.
But Christian might not be, because obviously it's the 93s on the same day as well.
Oh, is it the same day? I thought he'd already lifted by then. My bad. Maybe not.
He's after. It'll be Sunday prime time, so
we'll ignore that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a class I'm massively familiar with. But to be fair, it's a bit away from it. One performance I'm kind of interested in seeing is Holly Tobin, is what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
From the YNE. I think she also did the Manchester Open, if I'm right, and like is someone that is still again quite new, very, very strong, making some decent strides, coached by Tom Strawbridge, the guy who owns NESC. So it'll be interesting to see how she turns up. Again, has had some time to keep making that progress right forward, and someone who was a bit more like raw and new to like the national side of things. So whilst maybe a bit off the pace, could be one that puts together a really solid performance, and then you're looking like next year, you go, oh, this could be someone to look out for.
I'll give an honourable mention to Shaz in 10th as well, because she did that ST comp near you, Dan, where she poor squatted 205.
Oh, that's her.
Yeah,
That
and
was
then
mental, by the way. That was like, yeah.
I'm pretty sure she squatted 230 the other day.
Yeah, she's got a 230. I think it might have been yesterday or the day before, 230. I think it's hard to tell, but I do think it looked a little bit high compared to some of her older videos. But usually it's pretty, and she's competed already. Like, she knows how to lift a standard. I don't know who she's coached by. Is she coached by a powerlifting coach, or is she coached by an in-person PT?
PT, but like dabbles in strength training.
I think it'll be interesting to see, because I mean, if her other two, she only really posts squats, doesn't she? But if her other two lifts have been going well as well, then she could also be maybe not battle for podium, but top 5.
I think she pulled 200. So like, if you're saying, say she has 230, 200, that's already 45 plus on toes. That's at 500.
Yeah.
And yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah.
To see that many girls totaling 500 plus, especially in the 84 plus, which is normally a pretty underpopulated class as well. Like, it's insane. I was just scrolling back. It looks like from 57s up, we'll probably have at least one person totaling 500 plus, like all the way up, which is crazy if you think about previous years.
It's nice as well to see that the 84 pluses is like, is it 15 people? Because it's saying it might become 2. So
yeah,
like it's good that actually there's a bit more there's more people in that class, because historically, you know, it wouldn't be uncommon for it to be 6, 7, 84 pluses. So to have just a wider pool of talent in that class is really, really good.
Yeah, definitely. Any other mentions anyone wants to throw in there? I feel that's all the class has done.
I think on the women's side, the 76ers are probably one of the more fun ones to watch, in terms of like how many people are good. I mean, like, it's not just a 2 or 3 horse race. It's like top 10 is pretty decent. I think it'll be the best prime time out of the women's, to be honest. Yeah, biased because I've got Indiana doing it and stuff, but yeah, I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I think as well, historically, the 76ers, it's always been a busy class, but it's always been Sophia, like, out front, comfortably out front. And although she has got a lead on nominations, no one knows what her training is actually really like. Like, she's not been posting a lot. And I think, although her knees have obviously been a problem for a long time, I think previous comps, she's still been posting up squat PBs going into comp, and her squat has progressed. It's just, if it's still at that level, is she still at that 548, or is she a little bit behind? It just sort of depends.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's never been this close in the 76ers before. Like, you can't take away Kemi. Like, if she's managed to get some of her old strength back, she'll easily be in that contention for first place as well.
But you'll see a lot of big deadlifts as well. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's like almost a 200 plus pull on every third, which is huge.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I think as well the 84s is going to be really fun, because I'm going to finally get on that podium at British.
If I speak.
So right, we've got some cheating tactics planned.
Cheating tactics.
You get locked in the toilet or something, don't worry.
I'll ruffle your feathers, Owen.
You couldn't do it if you tried.
Perfect. We'll wrap it up there. I will thank you guys for hopping on. We'll do it again.
Yeah,
Future
definitely.
comments.